Hi guys, my name is Lilly and today I want to present you my survival knife. This is it, guys. Before I show you the knife, I first want to give you a short introduction of the story of this knife here and why I have designed my own knife, right? Because there are so many out there, so why did I have the desire to make my own knife? So basically the reason was that, you know, as an outdoors person, you need a good knife, right? You need a knife for gutting fish, for gutting deer, for building shelters, for chopping, for batoning, for carving fine feather sticks. So for pretty much all wilderness tasks. And a knife is pretty important for a survivalist or outdoor person. And over the couple of years, you know, I had a lot of knives and I was always searching somehow for the perfect knife which fits all of my needs. And I really had a lot of knives and I tried out so many knives in my life. But every knife had something that I didn't like, some kind of feature I didn't like, yeah? So I was never 100% happy. Some knives were awesome, some knives were almost perfect, but I didn't find the one which had all of the features that I wanted. So I told myself it can't be that I cannot find the perfect knife for me and no one is producing the things that I want. So I decided that I want to design my own knife, and basically that was the motivation behind it. And then I also needed a name for the knife, and initially I wanted to go for SL1, which means SurvivalLilly 1, but actually I have searched some brands in the US and that SL1 brand was already taken by another knife company. So then I had to, you know, invent another name, and I'm going to call this knife APO-1. So if I only had one choice of knife for the apocalypse, so APO is short for apocalypse, then I would take this one here. So this was, I think, a pretty good and accurate description and name of my knife here. And that's the way I also have designed this knife. So I wanted to have a robust knife which doesn't break easily, which can be used and sometimes abused for survival tasks, and which won't let you down. So that was the basic thought behind this name. APO-1, the one knife that I would take with me if the apocalypse hits the fan. Okay, now let's take a closer look. This is the APO-1 in the closed state. As you can see, I have chosen a nylon injected sheath as a sheath. And yeah, it's pretty robust. It also comes with 2 belt loops. And I really like the concept of 2 because if one fails, you still have another one. And also you can open this up here. And this belt loop is actually MOLLE compatible. So you can hook this on your backpack. That's pretty cool. And also you don't have to take down your belt. You just can thread it into your belt like so. And then you close the loops with this buckle here. And these are very heavy duty buckles actually, so they won't open by themselves. It's really hard to open them. So that's basically the sheath. And here you can see APO-1, that's the brand name. And at the bottom here you can see a drainage hole. Now the sheath comes with a lot of holes and rivets. So if you want to, you can, you know, put some cordage around the sheath so that you always have cordage with you. All right, so this is it, guys. This here is my knife. Now let's take a closer look at the grind here. I have chosen a saber grind for the grind of the blade because I really love saber grinds. I think they are really stable here at the back and still they have a very good cutting performance for such a thick blade. The blade thickness, by the way, is 4.8 millimeters. So that's pretty thick. And here at the left side you can see APO-1, which is the brand name. At the right side you can see AUS-8 Taiwan. So the steel of the blade is AUS-8 because I really like the steel, okay? I had very good experiences in the past with the steel. The steel here is very tough and it won't let you down, which basically means it doesn't chip, and it's so tough that even with a little bit of abuse, it will withstand the abuse and it will not break. So AUS-8 is one of my favorites. Of course, AUS-8 is not the best when it comes to edge retention, but at least, you know, the steel is not breaking out, it's not making chips, and it's really robust. So I really love the steel, and that's the steel that I wanted to have for this knife here. Now my knife is produced in Taiwan. I know that a lot of people would rather see USA here or Europe, but I have to say that if I had let this knife produced in Europe, like the same quality, it would have cost me like 3 times more, and yeah, it wouldn't be available at a very reasonable price, and that's why I let it produce in Taiwan. And actually I have to say the quality is great, so it's a really nice knife. Alright, so I have a saber grind, as you can see, but I don't have a false edge at the back side of the knife, and that has a reason, because yeah, I didn't want to have a very thin tip because they usually break easily, and I wanted to have a very thick and robust tip which can be used for prying, for example. Yeah, so I wanted to have something which lasts, and I myself have broken off a lot of knife tips while searching for grubs in the wood, and that's something that I don't want to happen. Here at the back side you can see that I have installed a thumb rail, and yeah, that's not really like 100% necessary for a survival knife, but I think every now and then, you know, when you get fatigued with cutting wood like this, you can use your thumb to aid your hand, and then cutting is easier again. You can also use this grip here, the thumb grip, for finer and more delicate carving tasks. So that's pretty awesome. Now let's come down to the handle. As you can see, my knife is full tang. It goes around all of the handle. There are no gaps in it, so if you take off the scale, you will see that this is a whole chunk of steel. And full tang is a must-have for a survival knife. Now the material of the handle is micarta. It comes with a black and grayish color, and we see 3 screws. The screws are made from carbon steel, which are coated to protect them against rust. Now the handle was pretty tough to design actually, so I needed a couple of times until I got it right. And I wanted to have a very comfortable handle which feels very good in the hand. That means that you have a lot of curvature here, but also you need to have curvature here and here. So basically my knife handle is tapered here and up here. Okay, so, and that's what's making a knife handle really comfortable. It's really comfortable. And I have really big hands for a woman, and there's still a lot of handle left, and I've handed over this blade here to a lot of men who had very big hands, and all of them fit the handle. So that's the handle here, very comfortable, tapered. Now if we take a look at the bottom of the handle, we can see that it's very tapered, so it's coming out here, and yeah, you can see that it's very tapered. There's a lot of curve in it, and that has a special reason, because, you know, this is the standard grip of the handle, but you can also slide down and grip the handle like this. Okay, that's why it's so important that the handle is curved, and then you can take the knife like this and use it to chop some wood. And with this curvature at the bottom, this knife won't slip easily out of your hand. And also here at the very bottom, I have installed a lanyard hole. So in addition to the knife grip for chopping, you can also take some cordage and attach a lanyard to the lanyard hole, and then you can take the knife very easily like this, and you don't have to fear that you're losing it while you're chopping. Another thing that I would like to mention is the flat part of my lanyard hole, and that has a certain reason as well. So I wanted to have like a small hammer on my knife handle, so now I can, drive in some nails if I have to, or I can smash off some limpets from a rock without damaging my handle scales. So that was very important for me. And the other advantage of a flat hammer here at the bottom is that if you take the knife in reverse grip, then you can put on your thumb like so, and then you have much more strength to use the knife as a prying tool, for example, like digging out roots in the ground or whatever you want to like to use it. So that's really neat. I've seen other knives which have a point here, and yeah, it's great because you can use them for glass breaking, but actually then you can't put on your thumb anymore. And I rather want to put my thumb on here and have a flat spot which I can use as a hammer instead of a glass breaker. Okay, so this was the introduction of my APO-1 survival knife. And now I want to show you what I went through when I was designing this knife. So I started like 14 months ago to design the APO-1. And this was my first prototype. And I have to say, I was really disappointed when I got the knife. It looked so much better on the drawing that I made. And the handle was far too thin and too short. And the knife came with a hollow grind, which is good for cutting, but actually for knife stability, like tip-wise, it's not good. As you can see, I have bent over my tip. Tip test with the Prototype 1 hollow grind. Bent tip after just one try. Tip test Prototype 2 with flat grind. Nothing. Nothing. Tip of the Prototype 2 is still intact. Steel versus stone test, edge test, Prototype number 1. The edge has rolled over, but there's no chipping. Steel versus stone test, Prototype 2. Blade is dull now, and it rolled over a little bit, but there are no chips, which is very typical for a US 8 steel. And that's why I have decided against a hollow grind, because they're really unstable. And yeah, so this prototype was the first one, and yeah, I'm not really happy about this one, but hey, it was my first try. And yeah, then I had 2 other prototypes. Like this was my second handle. It was a little bit better, but it still lacked a little bit of the finger guard and it was too thick. And then I had another handle here. This one was much better, but still it had a part down here which was too thick and it was not comfortable, so I had to make it smaller. And then in the end I came out with this handle, and this one is very comfortable now. It needed me a lot of time and effort to get this handle design done, but now it's really great and awesome. So that's the knife handles. And yeah, I also have a knife which has a false edge. So this is the APO-1 with a false edge. Unfortunately, the knife tip came out very, very thin, and that's why I have decided against this tip. It would be very beautiful to have a knife like this, but as I said, the tip is really too thin. So I know that I would rip it off myself. So I definitely don't want to sell it to a customer, and that's why I have designed the knife like this. Yeah, without a false edge, but this way I have a very, very, very stable tip. And then I got my first prototype, which is this one here. I've taken this knife with me to Africa and I beat the hell out of it for 3 weeks, and nothing has broken, nothing has chipped, the tip is still there. So yeah, it's a little bit rusty because the weather in Africa is pretty humid, and it didn't rust until we actually came to the beach. Like, I have submerged this knife for 3 days in salt water because I wanted to see what the steel can take. Now, a lot of people might say, how can this be? How can stainless steel rust? Well, stainless doesn't mean that it's really rust proof, it's just rust resistant. And if the blade gets submerged in salt water, that's what I did in Africa for 3 days, then the blade will get rusty spots like this. But it can be much more worse. This is the machete that I used in Africa. I basically have used this alongside my knife, and these two tools have been beside each other for 3 weeks. They have gone through the same environment, and this is how non-stainless steel looks after getting submerged in salt water. So salt water is very aggressive, but still the stainless steel looks much better. Alright guys, this was the review of the APO-1 survival knife. And yeah, if you are interested in purchasing one, then you can visit my website. You will find the link in the description below. And right now I'm only selling this knife by myself because usually merchants, they take a lot of money just for the sales only. And I think that's not necessary because I can send you the knife. So yeah, I don't have any merchants. You can only buy this knife at my store. Another thing needs to be said about the taxes. Like, if I sell this knife to an European, like for example here in Austria, or someone which lives in Europe, then I have to add 20% value added tax to the product. But if I sell this knife to the US, then I don't have to add 20% value added tax. So American or Canadian can buy this knife for the net value. But you have to bear in mind that you might still have to pay for the customs, and maybe you have your own value added tax for imported knives in your state. So I would highly recommend that before you buy this knife, you should really call the customs and ask how much custom there is on knives, and also if there is a value added tax on this product. Okay, so yeah, that's the taxing situation. And you know how it is, we all have to pay taxes, and here in Austria it's really like we have to pay a lot of taxes. Yeah, that's the tax situation, and that's what you have to think about when you're buying this knife. And the next thing is that some countries don't allow the import of the knife, and you really have to ask your customs before you order this knife, because you can get in really big troubles if you are purchasing a knife and importing it to your country, but maybe it's prohibited to import knives, and then you might get a lot of troubles. So be sure that you are allowed to import knives into your country. So this is it. I want to thank you for watching, and yeah, this is my new baby. I'm really happy with the design of the APO-1. It has taken me a lot of time, and now I can finally sell it. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about this knife here. I think it's something very unique, and yeah, I think it will serve the customers well. So I want to thank you for watching, and stay tuned till next time.